Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creativity Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Peed, creative coach and consultant. I'm so very excited for a very special episode with you today as we close out the month of November about how full focus can change the game. I have a special guest with us today. It's going to be great. Let's get into it.
I just want to fight people, man. I just want to fight people after I hear that song. I just want to let's go. Let's do it. Who took my gum? Let's go.
Who took my gum? Wait, everyone, hang on. Who took my gum? All right, the guy that's here that's so obsessed with who took his gum, my good friend, business partner, Blake Behr. You've seen him on the show before. If you watch us on the Culture Based podcast, you've seen him there as well. Blake is the founder and CEO of Ridgeline Electrical Industries and co-founder of the Culture Base, also co-host of the Culture Based podcast with me. Look at us here, different backgrounds, different colors.
That's it.
That's about it. But today, I asked Blake to join me because we're going to talk about this thing called the Full Focus Planner, which we are great nerds of, and we nerd out on it together regularly. So I want to get into that because I feel like for a lot of creative people, as I've been having a lot of conversations with creative people, they kind of see me walking around with this little notebook, and they hear me say different things that are a part of the Full Focus Planner. And they're like, oh, what's that about? Well, what do you got going on over there? And it's super intriguing to them because most creative people are super unorganized and, kind of spur of the moment type of people, not great planners historically. Right. And so we have an opportunity to really kind of talk about that. And there's been a few converts already into the fold. So I just want to say right up front, Michael Hyatt and Full Focus, they have no idea that we're recording this. Hopefully this doesn't get shut down from them. I'm fully expecting to get a thank you card in the mail from them from this, just because, like I said, we're not in any way related. We're not like certified Full Focus pros, because everybody has their own certifications now. None of that. We're just loyal users. And it's kind of changed the game for us, hence the title, How Full Focus Can Change the Game. And we want to share that with you as well. So a couple things to remind you of before we get going here. My job here in this podcast and all the content that I'm pushing out is to help creative people know themselves, their process, and their team so that they can create greater things together. Would love for you to subscribe on any audio podcast platform you might be listening to this on. Leave a 5-star review. That really helps. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. We release this content every single Thursday, and would really love for you to like, subscribe, ring the bell. Super helpful. If you want to follow along, you can see here on YouTube my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube handle, all that stuff at Dustin Peed, P-E-A-D, or you can go to dustinpeed.com and sign up for a free consultation where anything that I'm talking about in any of these episodes, even the Full Focus Planner, if you're like, how can I do this? I would love to chat with you about that. So go on there, click on it, put yourself on my calendar, and we can get right into it. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about this Full Focus Planner. And so I just want to give you a brief insight before Blake and I start getting into this. But Full Focus is kind of an idea, book, business from a leader named Michael Hyatt. I don't know if he's really in the Hyatt hotels. Do you know if I don't think that's a relation.
I feel like he was the CEO at one point of something publishing. Thomas
Nelson.
Yeah, he was the CEO there.
Yeah, he was CEO of Thomas Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not the Hyatt hotel chain.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Anyway, what they started Full Focus because they believe everyone deserves to win at work and succeed at life. Their mission is to make it nearly impossible for people not to get the double win. Now, this whole double win terminology from them is kind of new to me. I'm not 100% what's going on there, but do you know anything about this? The double win thing?
I'm guessing it has to do with intrinsic, extrinsic wins, like the extrinsic of hitting the goal, the intrinsic of the value that it brings. That's my guess. Because a lot of their goal setting stuff is very similar.
I mean, I dig that.
Let's go.
Let's just pretend that's what it means.
That's exactly
because that was a lot of syllables. So, So Blake introduced me into Full Focus gosh, probably earlier this year. I mean, he's talked about it with me for a while now, but earlier this year, I had my transition out of full-time local church ministry into this coaching and consulting thing, and Blake and I have been working on the culture base together and things like that. And I'm always looking to kind of improve my organizational skills and improve my planning. I'm a huge planner. I love goal setting, and goals honestly have always been super difficult for me. Really easy to come up with. I think everybody can be like, oh yeah, I can just come up with goals like crazy, but it's hard to stick with them. If we're lucky, if we get to March and we even remember what the goals were, much less have made any traction on them at all. And so that was probably the most intriguing part of this whole thing for me. But Blake, why don't you just share with us how you came to know or discover this whole full focus planner and how it entered your world?
Yeah, so it started from me 7 or 8 years ago, which the planner hasn't been around that long. But maybe it has, I don't know. But the thing that actually connected me was Michael Hyatt's, you know what? I think this is my 10th year doing one of his programs called 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever.
Yeah, which I just started. I'm in day 3 right now. I'm doing it all 5 days this week.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
It's my favorite week. I am actually waiting till next week, which in lifetime is Thanksgiving week. And I always wait for that week to kind of start it up.
I love
it. Anyway, it's fantastic. Helped me start my business. It just helps compartmentalize the way you think about things and then goal plan and set that up. I love it. So if I don't even, do they sell that anymore?
Yes.
5 Days to Your Best Year Ever. Okay.
Yes. The program, you mean?
I feel like they took a hiatus at one point.
I don't know if the program is there, but I do know as of our recording, we're recording this on Wednesday, November 15th. Yesterday, Tuesday, November 14th, he just came out with an updated and revised version of the book.
Oh, cool.
But I know somebody who may or may not be also on this podcast sent me the video content for that whole deal. And so that's what I'm working through.
Cool.
And then
that's a good setup for me getting sued. Awesome.
Real quick, I didn't say it was you. I said may or may not be. You just gave yourself away. So anyway, I'm still not saying it was you. I will say though, this is a cool bonus that I just found on Michael Hyatt's podcast, which I think is called Lead to Win. Is that right? Is that what his podcast is called? Lead to Win, or I don't know. Just look up Michael Hyatt. He's got a couple different podcasts, but his main podcast that he does with his daughter, anyway, I forget her name. Hyatt Miller is her last name. Anyway, she they just released this week. They're releasing every day this week on that podcast, him reading a chapter of the updated and revised. So it's basically like a free audiobook for the updated and revised. So what I've been doing is the best year ever thing during the day for that particular day. And then later in that evening, I've been listening to the chapter on his podcast for his updated and revised version, which I just bought the old book. And then a week later, they were like, hey, we're coming out with a new one. And I was like, well, now I got them all, I guess.
Yeah.
So
anyway, he's a great author. He wrote another book called Platform that I highly suggest. That's really about knowing your platform, knowing how to build platform. Really good one. And which we're kind of going off on some tangents here, but at the end of the day, that's what tripped me into this. Is I started doing a bunch of this, and what I noticed was I just didn't have a good planner. Like, how do you take all of this information? How do you have good reviews? How do you go through this process and not have a place to keep it all? And so I started creating different like pages that I would print out every day that tried to capture a lot of this. I even went to a printer here in town, a local printer downtown Indy, and was like, here's what I'm looking for. And they gave me this hardbound book, and it costs a ton to make because I'm making like 1 to 5 of them. And
we used to do that with the day notes or the day sheets. Do you remember the day sheets from Story Brand, Ben Arment?
Exactly. So I created a rendition of that with a lot of the full focus concepts. And then I was on the phone one day talking to a buddy of mine, Omer, and I was like, man, I just finished getting this done and it's been working great, but there's still some gaps. And he said, oh, did you hear Hyatt just came out with another one? He just came out with a planner. And I was like, shut up. And then it was like right when I was starting my company. So it was like perfect timing for me to
Yeah.
keep all my stuff where it is. I mean, it's so funny the things you remember, but like I remember where I was when I heard that.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Like a president's been shot.
I remember
and you're like,
that.
no, I remember where I was when I found out that Michael Hyatt came out with a planner.
I was standing
Nerd
alert. What is it? I don't know. The place you keep all your stuff when you live in an apartment and you don't want to put it in your apartment.
Like a storage facility.
I was outside of a storage facility that we were operating some of our logistics through. And so it was so funny. I remember stopping and be like, shut up. And I ran and jumped and ordered it right there. Right. But here is my like why. Because I know a lot of people who are just like, oh, just do it online. Do everything online. Like it's easier. I'm a very tangible person. Like I need things in my hand to work through. And I need, and maybe even more than this, I need something that tells me create this mindset and lifestyle. That's what I need. And the thing, it's like, I used to have a Fitbit. And when I had my Fitbit, I would run all the time. I was healthy. I was working out a lot. And I was like, man, this is great. Then I was like, oh, I'll get the Apple Watch. It does all this stuff and I'll be able to get other stuff. The problem is when you look at an Apple Watch, you think of not be healthy. You just think of do, like get stuff done, go here. Like it's telling you what to do. When I look at a Fitbit, I think be healthy, right? Same thing with having a planner that is in my hands that when I have it, like even if I ever was to go something more technical or tech driven, it would need to be something that had a mindset lifestyle behind it, right?
Yeah.
Not like I don't think I could do a like an iPad. I don't think I could do it because an iPad's a lot of stuff.
I've tried.
Right. So that's why I love it. I love that it's set up in a quarter by quarter basis because it excites you about your next one. And you're not carrying a Bible around. I mean, look at this thing. It's hefty as it is for a quarter, but it's just the right amount of hefty. And the thing is, this thing goes with me everywhere. When I hear people like, oh, I struggle with having a planner because, I'm not always at my desk or I'm not always in these places. And I always just straight up tell them, I go, well, I just carry it everywhere. Like,
I hear your voice.
Me, my wife, and my planner. Like, it's just there. It's weird. And like,
I haven't gone that far yet. Yeah, I haven't gone that far yet, but I do hear your voice often. I'll see it sitting on my desk or the table because even if I walk upstairs for a little while, I'll take it with me. And then I'm getting ready to leave to go somewhere, and I think, do I need to bring this with me or not? And I always hear Blake go, I take it with me everywhere. And I go, all right, fine, I'll take it. And I take it. And I'm always glad I did because something happens where I need to jot it down in there or something like that. But yeah, I haven't gone as far to take it on a date. I'm not offline. I would love to hear your strategy for convincing your wife that it's okay for you to take your planner on the date. But let's not get into that. It
doesn't sit on the table. I mean, I'll bring it in the car. It sits with me there, kind of thing.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you meant like it's the two of you, a couple glasses of wine, and Michael Hyatt's full focus planner.
I'm like, sweetie, this 73 Merlot. What do you think?
Just to write it down. I love that. Well, yes, like I said, Blake introduced me to this earlier this year, going all the way back to, when Blake and I met and we started creating things together. We were using these day sheets from Ben Arment and the Story Conference, and he's since kind of sold all that stuff to Harris III, and he's doing a great job with it. But we've always kind of looked for a system to help us with that. I love what you said, Blake, about it gives you a mindset perspective. It's not just another tool; it's a mindset, because that's really how this has changed the game for me. And my initial thoughts were, I've been an Asana person for a long time. And use project management software of Asana for a really, really long time. Ever since I've known Blake, I've probably been on Asana. And I still use it. It's still really great. But the tangible aspect of having the things written down in front of me is a big deal. I was just listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about journaling and how much, we all know, like psychologically proven that if you write something down, it sticks in your head more than if you type something out. It's just the way our brains work. And So using that to our advantage, we use that and we go, okay, well, I'm going to write this down. My initial thoughts on the full focus planner, it can be a lot. And we'll talk about that here towards the second half of our episode, where it kind of breaks down some things for you every week. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And even my wife from afar has, since I've started doing this, she's been kind of like, I want to do it. Seems like it's really helpful. Also seems like a lot. And I'm like, it is a commitment. And so I've committed, for me, a year to going through it. I'm like, I'm going to buy 4 of these. I'm going to do it 4 times. And after, honestly, I got not even halfway through the first quarter before I was like, this is it. This is what I've been missing. Because the biggest takeaway for me, and I want to kind of hear from you too, Blake, what the biggest impact has been for you. But for me, the biggest impact has been I've always had these goals, but never been able to do anything with it. And now I have goals in front of me every single week. And even more so, like we'll talk about here in a second, I have them in front of me every single day. And so that's really changed the game for me to be, and I might not hit, I have 10 goals this year, and he'll tell you not to go past 10. Even in the book, there's only a space enough for 10 of them. I have 10 goals this year, and some life things have happened. I'm probably only going to hit between 7 and 8 of those goals. But if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that I would hit 70%, 80% of my goals for this year, I'd be like, you're crazy, because by March, I'm not even going to remember what they are. But it's just been it's every time someone asks me, what do you get out of it? I'm like, I know it sounds cliche, but it's focus. It's focus.
Yep.
What about you?
Yeah, that's good. I think one thing I would say before I kind of jump into that is, it doesn't mean you don't put other things around you like Asana or like your Google Calendar. I think the mindset is, the full focus planner is not supplemental to those things. Those things are supplemental to the planner. The planner for me is the fuel, and it is the motivation, and it is the connection to staying with your goals. So many people get so far from their goals because they lose connection to their goals. I love the full focus planner because weekly I am re-establishing my connection to that goal. And even in like an emotional way, right? Okay, so it is so important to have emotional and intrinsic motivation to hit your goals. Otherwise, when you get into the rough aspect of your goals, you will just drop them. It's so easy. This is why the majority of people never make it past January or February with their goals, is because life sets in and it's not easy. And you got to be able to have something that's deeper than I just want it. You got to have something deeper. So for me, why, or the biggest impact this has had on my life has been the ability to take vision to action. And it is just being able as a visionary to have all this stuff in your head. When it stays there, it gets muddy. When it stays there, it feels impossible. Every day that goes by that it stays up in my head, it feels almost more impossible until I give it some tangibility. And I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to say it. Gives it some tangible aspect to where even putting it down on paper now has given me this feel of, okay, now I've seen in the past that when I put things down on paper, they become reality. And so the biggest impact it's had is, I mean, I went from running somebody else's company for them, and taking a massive leap out on our own, and being a one income household, to now having a company with 50 plus people, and we're serving a ton of people. There's tons of impact to say that vision turned into something. And it's not like the very beginning vision turned into it. It's been this iterative vision, or this evolving vision that constantly continues to change. And I know that it doesn't matter so much because I've got something that's going to be able to help me bring all that together, and to continue going back to say, okay, now I'm touching base with this again, and I'm not sure that's part of the goal. Now I think it's evolved. I think it's, more emergent to be like this. And so it's having something that allows me to do that, and to go back and to look at things. Like I love books. I love libraries. I'm more of an audiobook person, but I love the view of books, like even in the background, having books up. I just love it. But I'm also the nerd who's been doing this for 6-7 years. So I've got a couple of these things laying around to where they only had one version of this. Now they have like a ton of different ones, right?
Yeah.
Like there was only, and they've continued to evolve themselves, and I love that. But I literally have a bookshelf that is just lined with these things. And I love it though, because I can go back and be like, what was Blake thinking 4 years ago? What was Blake thinking about his company, about how we were going to run this aspect? And there's even parts in the journal or in the planner that have empty sections for you to journal essentially. And I don't, this isn't my journal, but there are times that I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to give future me a perspective. Like,
Wow.
here's what I'm thinking. And just being able to do that, especially in the weekly aspect where like they have a weekly review section, that's been super helpful to kind of sweep back through.
Yeah, for sure. I know we talked for a second about the about Asana and or any other project software. I just want to kind of give people an insight real quick, because one of the things we're going to talk about here in a second is the weekly preview portion of the planner. And the part of that weekly preview is for you to assess, review any task management software that you use. So even the book itself is built to bring all of that other content in. So I do some consulting with some other organizations, and so I have other Asana workspaces for those organizations. But when I'm doing my weekly preview, I pull up those things, and so I work those things into the full focus planner. If there's something that's expected of me or something that I said that I was going to do, I will pull that into my planner on my weekly preview. Before we jump into the weekly previews and the rhythms and the startups and the shutdowns and all that stuff, Blake, do you modify or add anything to the planner? I know there's like a whole Facebook community out there for the full focus planner, and they will always come up with different mods and different things that they've added and different hacks that they've used for like, this is better, do it this way, this is not as great, don't do it that way. And I know I've picked up some of those from them. I picked some of those up from you. Do you have any of those?
Absolutely. Everyone's brain works differently. There's no one brain that works the same way.
Preach.
So to think that there's only one way to plan, I think 10 years ago me would have said, because I had success in it, I would have been like, this is the only way to do it.
This is the only way.
This is it. And not realizing that like I've never been diagnosed as ADD, but I clearly have those little tics that I'm like, here. And so creating something within that planner that helps grab that stuff quickly and helps moderate some of that jumping around kind of thing is so helpful. And so when you create your own stuff in it and you don't feel like you have to be some purist in every right, you're going to come out with really neat stuff. I mean, even like I daily want to have the aspect of putting vision on my planner. So visually here, like in the sides over here on the left-hand side of a day, I always go through, I write vision and I write to do as a high level, like things that I need to capture and grasp. That's not something that is necessarily there on the planner. I also, on the far left-hand side, number every task. And then in the time area, I put the number. I don't write out tasks in my time slots, where I've seen a bunch of people write out what the task is they're going to do in that time slot.
Yeah.
That just seems like a lot of effort to me.
It's just a map key for you at that point.
Exactly. They've added a lot of things that early on I was actually doing, daily wins, and even like keeping check marks for things, and like as far as like progress bars, and I was adding that kind of stuff in myself, and then they came out with it and I was like, this is glorious. But one of the bigger ones that I've done probably within the last 1.5 to 2 years is I will add a Post-it that jumps from day to day. And that Post-it is more like my vision items. So the stuff in the front of the book that talks about like all your goals and stuff, I label those goals. Like if you had 10 goals, they're 1 through 10. So each of these to-dos then has a number referencing that goal. As you're going through a goal or a year and you have 10 goals, you know that my one goal always is associated with this. My two goals always associated with this. And so the reason I like having this right here is that I don't have to rewrite everything the next day. I just pull it off and go to the next day.
Yeah.
So that's been one aspect that I don't even know how you would ever create that in an analog version. So it's like,
yeah, Post-it notes are kind of the only way you can do it.
Yep, exactly. So to me, that's been super helpful, kind of adding that in.
Yeah, I took that hack from Blake as well, and so I have my Post-it note on every day, 1 through 10. The number associates with the goal, which the goals, by the way, are the very first page in the book, is a place for your annual goals. And even every quarter, you're rewriting these annual goals, and you number them 1 through 10. There's a place in there of like, what quarter am I going to complete or start it, or when is it due? You can use it however you want, really. But yeah, the sticky note has been probably the biggest hack for me. I also do for the most part, we'll just write the number of the task in there. If it's a meeting, I'll write the person's name on that column for the meeting, just so I know, at 2:00 I'm with Larissa, at 1:00 I'm with Blake, or that kind of stuff. So that's really helpful. All right, let's get into, before we get too long in this episode, just kind of how this a week and a day looks like in the life of the full focus planner. So at the very beginning of your week, which their weeks run Monday through Sunday. Sunday is the last day of the week. Monday is the first day of the week, because typically most of us start our work week on Mondays, don't start our work week on Sundays for the most part. And so what they have for you after the Sunday page is they have this thing called the weekly preview. Now on the left side, there is it's really more of a weekly review than it is a preview, right? So the left side is more about like, hey, the big 3 that you said you were going to accomplish this week. Remember last week when you did this thing and you said, I'm going to accomplish these are the big 3 things that I'm going to focus on this week. What percentage of each of those did you get done? And so you can kind of start to see like, oh, is my focus shifting from what I told it was going to be even a week ago, or do I need to refocus that back on? It's what didn't work, what worked and what didn't work, and why not. I love those. I love that section. Ask the question, what will you continue to do, and what will you change? Love that question. Writing that down gets you an opportunity to really kind of commit to that change, or commit to the new habit that maybe you've picked up over the last week or two. After action review is up at the top. List 3 to 5 of your biggest wins from the week. I'm really not great. At the bottom of every daily spread, there's a place for your daily win. I'm really not great at doing that. I need to get better at putting that in there. But at the end of the week, I am really good at looking back over my pages and go, wow, look at all that I accomplished. And I'll write down the 3 or 4 really big things that I was actually able to get done. But then when we look on the right side of that, then we're getting into the weekly preview, which we've got goal review section in there. We've got streak tracker is one of the things. So like some of your goals may be habit oriented goals. Like I want to develop this new habit. Like for me, one of my goals this year was to release content weekly, at least 1 day a week, every week of the year. So release weekly content for 52 weeks was one of my goals this year. And so I'm able to look back and look on this weekly spread every week. I'm able to look back and go, yeah, I did that here. So at least as long as I get 1 check mark on that list, then I've hit that goal for that week. On to the next week. Rejuvenation is probably one of my favorite parts of the weekly preview. What are you going to do intentionally to sleep, eat, move, connect, or relax a little bit better this week is what it says. And then you schedule that out in your daily pages. Super great. One of my favorite things to do, which we'll talk about workday shutdown here in a minute, is to do the Peloton. I'll do a Peloton ride, a short Peloton ride at the end of my day for workday shutdown. But then there's weekly overview for your events, your projects, your tasks, any other commitments. And then you end your weekly preview with the weekly big 3, which we talked about a minute ago. But Blake, can you just kind of, what is a weekly big 3 versus like a daily big 3?
Yeah, weekly big 3, not to complicate this at all, but like weekly big 3 breaks down your daily big 3s, right? Like if, we're wanting to get to a certain point on a project, then I could go, hey, we want to be at ready to launch this product by this date. And so in this week, I want to get to whatever 50% done is. Let's get 50% to there. Then my daily threes are, what is my, like, am I focusing on that every day? Or does that take like, a backseat to the reality of that should be a top three? So
Yeah.
if that get to 50% has 12 tasks to it, then I need to put those 12 tasks in my big three, like, so I think that's kind of the difference. The weekly preview, though, I'm going to get pretty bold in saying this.
Let's go.
The weekly preview, if you don't do some kind of preview to your next week, I think you are 50% less likely to get anything done.
I totally agree.
Like, I think you're being generous with 50%. You know how there's so many people who say, hey, if you write down your goal, you're X amount percent more likely to make it happen. I agree that that's real, because if you don't write it down, you don't give a darn, right? Like, that's it. Okay, that's permission to play. But for those who write it down and like actually put thought to it for their plans, if you have a weekly review cadence, man, I would almost guarantee a 50% more likeliness that you'll hit your goals.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. That the quarters I've had that were trash were quarters that I didn't do my reviews well. And you start learning about yourself those seasons that cause you the stress and the overwhelm that you're like, man, I just don't have time for that right now. Okay, but you either need to give yourself grace during those seasons, or you need to suck it up, buttercup, and get moving. Like, go do those reviews, because they are crucial, and it's an investment into your future, right? Like, future you is not created in the future, it's created in the present. Okay. Like, you can't invest in future you in the future. It can only be done right now. So if future you is going to be created, it needs to be done intentionally. And that needs to be done once a week, of really getting back to your goals and getting back to why you're doing any of this. And you don't have to make, like, people make this sound like it needs to be 4 hours. It doesn't.
No.
Like, I really aim for no more than an hour. If it takes more, it's because I want it to. But outside of that, it doesn't need to. And so my weekly preview, I personally create my I know they do Monday to Friday or to Sunday as their week. My week is Sunday to Saturday, because I have a hard rest on Saturdays. I won't do things. So my Sunday startup, it's great, because I don't have my occupational work that I need to be focusing on. I get to focus on vision. And so starting the week on a Sunday and getting in my start is just the weekly preview. I don't have to put in 8 hours to have a good, impactful day. I need to put in a little bit of time of planning out the rest of the week. So that's where I'm doing a task sweep of anything that I missed. Like, I'm going back through all my notes, and did I miss something? Do I have, something coming up that I forgot to put on, in an area that I could capture all that? Okay, now I'm sweeping back through every page from the last week. Then I'm also looking at my goals. What goals did I not focus on very well? And now maybe it wasn't a top 3, and that's why it didn't get focused on, but it gets bumped up if it's important.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The weekly preview is the most powerful part of the full focus planner, if you ask me. There is things at the top corner of every daily page or daily spread. There are these 4 little check boxes up there that say morning ritual, workday startup ritual, workday shutdown ritual, and evening ritual. And we could spend probably entire episodes on all 4 of these, but just real quickly, there's a portion at the beginning of every planner where you can basically draw out your ideal week, and you can also write out your ideal kind of morning. I say rhythms than rituals, just because rituals to me are less flexible, and rhythms, my morning and evening rhythms for the most part change quarterly. They change seasonally depending on what's going on in my life, and so it's a rhythm for me. So my morning and evening rhythms, I can list out at the beginning of each quarter. All right, this is what they're going to look like this quarter. it's normal stupid stuff, like I'm gonna get a walk in the morning, I'm gonna pick out my clothes before I go to bed for the next day, like it's
Mhm.
things like that, right? And then the workday startup and the workday shutdown, not everybody uses these. I use one stronger than the other. I use the workday startup for much stronger than my workday shutdown.
Yeah.
Pretty much my workday shutdown right now was one final check of emails, Slack notifications, things like that, and then I'm cleaning off my desk. I do a full clean of like any junk that's left on there, so that when I get started the next day, I don't have to worry about that. And then I'm hopping on the Peloton
Yeah.
for 10-15 minutes. And it's just a way to kind of final clear my head before I have to go back into family mode. I've left work mode, especially if you're listening to this or watching and you don't have a commute. Your commute is from one part of the house to the other part of the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like doing some type of a workday shutdown here is good, because then you're not entering into family time or family mode in the evenings
Mhm.
with all of the stuff kind of left lingering over. But I
And
just
it's
kind of
serving future you. That's
and
why,
it's
like,
serving.
that's it. The workday shutdown is serving future you. And
Yes.
it lets you see if you're going to cut corners and have a rough morning, or you're going to serve future you and set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So just overall, Blake, I know we're running long on time here. Is there
Yeah.
anything in the morning, evening, workday startup, workday shutdown that has you found particularly helpful in this season of life?
Honestly, just having the checklist helps the accomplishment aspect. You know how they talk
The
about,
dopamine.
yeah, exactly. Just that feeling and the dopamine release is so important. But
Mhm.
um, the I don't remember what colonel said it, that the most important thing you can do every day is make your bed. And
Mhm.
um, I'm up very, very early where I don't have that ability to be the one who makes the bed because my wife's still sleeping in the bed. And so, like, to get up and do that and get that sense of accomplishment, I have to get other ways. And
Mm.
so, when I go downstairs to my basement and start my morning routine and start going through my time of prayer and silence, my time of meditation, my workout time, and start going through all that flow and go into the day, just that check off, it like it's like putting Febreze on the clean room, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
like, feels good. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
do that. I just mean like it gives you that sense of like this is great. I've accomplished it. And
Yeah.
so having that ability has been helpful. So I think more than anything, it's important to quarterly do it, like to look at your, hey, what does
Readjust.
morning ritual look like? Because you're right, it does change, and you don't want to be like, well, it's been the way it always has. Man,
Yeah.
life changes. So
Yeah.
just having the checks marks is the best part for me.
Yeah. Well, I want to honor your time and the time of people that are watching and listening as well. But thank you so much, Blake, for being a part of this today and just nerding out with me for a little bit about the full focus plan. I know we nerd out about it all the time, so we just figured why not let everybody else nerd out
Mhm.
with us on it.
Yeah.
So
I do
it's
I do have
interesting
one
for
thing,
both of us. Go
if
for it.
that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really talk about this, and I think it's important.
Go.
The very beginning of the planner has goal sheets, and like those goal sheets when filled out
Mm.
well, that's
Hmm.
part of my weekly preview,
So
right?
good.
And like I will go back to those because you can build out what does done look like. You can build out all the items of the tasks that are like, hey, these are the milestone markers to get to this goal. Here's my
Yeah.
end date. Is it a spiritual goal? Is it a family goal? Is it a whatever? Those sheets are probably one of the most valuable parts of this journal when
Mm.
used well.
Yeah.
Because what you can also see when you fill out those things and check the categorical type of goal it is, you can see where you're unbalanced,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Where is the imbalance at that I'm not focusing on areas that are important to me in word, but maybe not important to me, in action. And so
Yeah.
it's a good place to reassociate yourself. So that part is probably one of the most important parts if you're actually trying to hit goals.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm glad you brought us back to that point. One of my favorite parts of those goal detail sheets in the beginning of the book is celebration portion.
Oh, yeah.
Says go ahead and decide now what you're going to do when you hit this goal.
Yeah. Right.
The assumptive nature of that statement, and then also to be able to tell yourself like, oh, I'm not only after this because I want to hit this goal, but at the end of it, like one of my goals is like, hey, at the end when I hit this goal, I'm going to take a getaway trip with Sarah. Like we're gonna go get one of those getaway cabins that we really like to stay at, and that's gonna be our reward for this. And so,
Yeah.
having those types of things are I just think huge. So good call. Way to end the episode strong. Thanks everybody for listening. If you're interested in the Full Focus Planner, you can check out, again, we're not endorsed. We don't get any kickback on it. So I'm not going to give you a special link where I get kickback on it or anything like that. Just go to fullfocus.co. You can click around the store there and you can see all the different types of varieties of the planners they have. Where they used to just have one, now they have many. And so, yeah, take it, use it. If you have any questions, hit either one of us up. I'm sure we'd love to nerd out with you and talk to you about how to best use that. But until next time, we'll talk to you on Creativity Made Easy.